Good afternoon. Today is the 23rd of May, and usually we'd be perhaps travelling somewhere whilst doing this, but today we're not, because I have an article to read that I think comes as no surprise to anyone, and that is Cazoo's, shall we say, inevitable fall into administration. So Cazoo has been around for a while. Those of you who aren't familiar with Cazoo, some of you might not be, some of you who aren't from the countries where Cazoo's been operating, they did operate in several different countries. Will maybe not know that it was, well, is I think now the word we can use, a sort of online retailer that hoped to sort of shake up the used car buying landscape. And the article here, which is from the BBC website, make of that what you will. It's probably not an unbiased article. Says that all of the staff will be retained for Cazoo during the administration process. The company's never made a profit, and they moved from being just, like a, how do I say this, a used car retailer to somewhere a bit like Auto Trader, trying to be like a marketplace. That led to 728 redundancies, and the firm's only got 208 staff left. It was a very popular thing during, the unfortunate period between 2020 and 2021. We had things like lockdowns. They supported teams like Aston Villa and Everton. They were kind of different. The BBC article explains it like this. Cazoo was different from more traditional used car dealers. It was a tech business trying to shake up a well-established order. The platform would allow shoppers to buy, part exchange and finance vehicles entirely online. People could order while sitting on the sofa. The vehicle would be delivered to their home in as little as 24 hours with a 7-day returns policy. Now, I've been operating in the job that I do, which is sourcing cars for clients. I'm doing 2 jobs this weekend. Sourcing cars for clients. I've been operating in this capacity for 7 years now, and I've never really found that actually the method that Cazoo has was always the most successful for most people. Sure, like doing online research, watching online videos, some of which I'd make myself, and looking through listings has pretty much ended the days when you went to the newsagents and saw if there were some cars in the cards in a window, or we waited for the Auto Trader to come out on a Thursday, and most of the best cars were gone by noon on Thursday, because in my case the Southern Auto Trader came out on a Thursday, and you got the little the little magazine, and the decent cars in there were gone. Those days have gone. You can't buy a physical Auto Trader anymore. The Auto Trader used to be a very successful brand and a very successful way to find cars online. I use Auto Trader all the time. You see channels like High Peak Autos. It's a very successful, not only a large channel, but also a large business up in the north of England, advertising on Auto Trader and talking about Auto Trader, looking at Auto Trader for kind of new cars and things like that. To not new cars, I mean new cars to buy or recommend. You see Matt people do it all the time. I myself prefer using Auto Trader to any other platform to look for used cars for clients. Cazoo sort of saying that once their kind of core business, which was online only, like it oversteps online, either they deliver you the car and things like that, and then trying to get rid of it and trying to create a platform to rival Auto Trader. I don't think that was ever going to work. The videos we've done beforehand talking about Cazoo and the problems that they had with some customer service and things like that, as reported by Watchdog, which is I think from 2022 we did that video, and then subsequently them entering into this sort of phase where we said we were going to build a platform like Auto Trader and be more successful than them. was all very sort of skeptical about that. But anyway, in 2019, they launched Cazoo. The pandemic massively boosted the firm's fortunes, as well as COVID restrictions, meaning people could only buy second-hand cars online. Yeah, there was a, well, that's not strictly true. You could obviously buy from a private seller if they wanted to, take that risk or whatever. Someone bought a car from me. In fact, two people bought cars from me during some lockdown restrictions, and we kept our social distancing and things. So that's not true. But obviously, dealerships were very much affected by this. There was a worldwide microchip shortage that disrupted new car manufacturing. Also played into Cazoo's hands as used car prices soared. I've made many videos myself about the price of used cars over the last 3 years, and in sort of about 3 years ago was when they went crazy. About May 2021 was when they went crazy. And only, I'd say, from my experience, some of them do remain very high. I've had to explain to both my clients I'm doing jobs for this very weekend that, prices are still higher in the segments that they're looking at, particularly in London, where I'm doing a job tomorrow. Prices for certain cars, especially automatic cars, are still really high. Other types of car, particularly electric cars and cars that aren't compliant with the optional emission zone and things like that, they have dropped significantly, but we're still feeling the effect of very high second-hand car price and shortages for certain dealers at the moment in certain sectors, particularly small, cheaper cars, particularly automatics, particularly in London. The environment fueled an astonishing increase in the company's value. When listing on the New York Stock Exchange in September 2021, it was valued at £5 billion. Now its valuation dropped to just $30 million, which is crazy. In November 2021, Alex Chesterman, who also helped to launch Zoopla and Love Film, I don't think he necessarily founded Love Film entirely. I think he was instrumental in sort of the early years of it. That film was before Netflix, told the BBC that gaining a small percentage of the market would create an enormous business, arguing that Cazoo offered customers a simple experience, greater choice and transparency on price. The platform went to launch in France, Germany, Spain and Portugal. At its peak in 2021, Cazoo employed 4,500 people. But despite a mission to transform the car industry, the feel-good factor surrounding Cazoo began to fade. That was probably about 2022 that happened, I'd say. One of the key people behind Cazoo's strong marketing campaign was Andrew Frankos, who joined the company shortly before it launched. He said the early days were really exciting, but believed the firm was spun too quickly. And it quotes here, "Looking back, I think Europe was a distraction. I remember saying to somebody, are we going in too soon? I was probably naive just to buy into the vision because I believed in it," end quote. Mr. Frankos left Cazoo in October 2022, and he admits he felt magic surrounding the company had gone. But he adds, I did also think they'd turn it around, end quote. The business has never made a profit. Yeah, that's true. While this is not unusual for a startup, in fact, Alex Chesterman said he expected this to be the case for 2 or 3 years after going public. Losses grew. In 2022, it posted it posted a loss of $704 million, up from $544 million the year before. In December last year, December 2023, it restructured debts of £630 million. That's not good. According to Catherine Fayers, the Chief Operating Officer at Auto Trader, whilst COVID showed a shift to online purchasing becoming the norm for goods, cars are just fundamentally different from other things you buy. So the majority of UK consumers prefer a blended approach of researching online but then seeing the car, speaking to a dealer in person before handing over their cash. Now, Cazoo did come with a 7-day return policy, no couple return policy in case you didn't like the car for whatever reason, but my experience, and this is the experience of so many dealerships I speak to, I do get some cars for review, for example, from a couple of different dealerships, and they say the same thing. It's like people like to actually sit in the car, to feel it, to feel the controls, to take a test drive before they commit a lot of money, in many cases, to buying it. So this lady Auto Trader says, buying a car is like buying a house. It's the second most valuable thing that most people buy. We name our cars. When you ask people why they own a car, it reads a bit like the American Constitution. I own a car because it gives me freedom, it gives me independence, it's empowering. And then there's a gentleman from various companies that he worked for in the past, Porsche, Lamborghini and BMW, says that his says that the problems were due to a simple fact of trying to get a foothold in a very sophisticated, well-established market. They believed that they could come in onto the retail business and provide a full service, but car dealers are already doing that. Well, yeah, car dealers are, their primary way of advertising now is online at car dealers. Some people just will walk past them, and sometimes they place adverts in local papers and things, but generally when you search for cars, you use a platform like eBay, Auto Trader, something like that, and that's the way dealerships get the information out to most of the customers. So the next section here, Alex Chesterman stepped aside as chief executive in January 23, and because perhaps a writing was on the wall, he left the company in December 2023. His replacement, Paul Whitehead, stepped down in March this year. The same time that Cazoo sold off all its remaining stock. Shifting Metal recently did a video about what this will actually mean for car prices, because Cazoo had a lot of cars in stock, whether some prices would come down. I don't think I've quite seen that yet. Perhaps they weren't quite as big a deal in that respect as some people thought they were, but your opinions might vary about that. I don't know. So yeah, they switched to online marketplace model, allowing car dealers to list their own stock on the platform. I doubt they'll want to do that because they can just put it on eBay or Auto Trader. They're very well established for selling used cars. The company had explored strategic alternatives for insolvency, including selling off parts of its business, and it struggled to raise cash from investors, but no buyer came forward. When contacted by the BBC for comment on Cazoo's downfall, Mr. Chesterman said he'd had no involvement in the company for more than 18 months and declined to comment further. If I was Alex Chesterman, I would probably do the same, to be honest. Philip Northard, Insight Institute Director at Cox Automotive, said Cazoo did force many of the established players to adapt, but as supply problems and microchip shortages have dissipated, there is still supply shortages, but they're only in several segments. They're not the entire used car business at the moment. Others have caught up. Yeah, we've got like oversupply of electric cars, for example, at the moment, where in 2022, for example, 2 years ago, we had huge supply problems for electric cars. The delivery times on some models, like the MG ZS, when that came out, the facelifted one in late 2021, a friend of mine waited 13 months for a facelifted ZS. You don't do that now. So he says the concluding remarks here about Cazoo. They came in quick, they came in heavy, they came with a concept that, on the face it worked in many ways, but in time, established retailers that could offer Cazoo were, offered the same thing that the Cazoo were offering. They could, offer, he calls this a really strange thing, a digital omni-channel e-commerce experience. And essentially they had a physical infrastructure already in place. And those are the concluding remarks. What a strange conclusion. The thing that springs to mind to me is a thing called Cinch, which is run by BCA, British Car Auctions. They're the same people who run We Buy Any Car and British Car Auctions themselves, BCA. And Cinch does much the same thing Cazoo used to do. It's just that they've got a very, very big traditional player in the automotive industry behind them. And so if that part of the company's making a loss, it doesn't really matter, because if you know anything about BCA and the way it works, the seller and buyer both pay a fee when the car is sold at an auction. We Buy Any Car, I mean, we can maybe make another video about that if you want to hear about it, but even my lady wife kind of knows that like the prices that they offer people for their cars are, well, not really what they're worth, shall we say. So there's obviously lots and lots of ways that they're making money, and they have transportation for cars and things like that as well. So yeah, they can afford to sort of absorb if they're making losses on Centric, they might not be. Whereas Cazoo, just doing this sort of thing, could not. And it's very sad about this huge number of jobs lost, about this company which had so much promise. But there we go. Anyway, that's quite enough from me. Thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video in the comment below, and we shall see you again for some more, well, very vague and not very coherent rambling.